Welcome, everybody. This is a very exciting night for Pop Publishing. My name is Shwa Laytart. I am going to be the moderator, if you will, for tonight's little panel before we get into the storytelling of Tony and the history of Las Vegas from some of the greatest artists that this town has seen. So, before I get started, I just want to let Tony know that this book is going to be included in the special collection of UNLV's archives, thanks to Dennis McBride. Dennis McBride could not be here, but he made sure that you're perfectly yours. And my wife reached out to another one of our favorite book-type people, Trashio Biblio, an independent subculture lending library out of the UK, requested and has bought your book as well to include in the lending library throughout Europe. They were a big fan and they're really excited about it. So I just want to let Tony know because we're really excited about that as well.
We're on the continent. We want to be on the continent. It's the edge, but still it's the continent.
So what I wanted to do tonight was bring in some people that have known Harry for a long time, that have been part of the art.
Harry.
Tony. I've hung out with Tony so much, I think not Harry. That can tell some stories and some history of Las Vegas that most of us don't know. And I've spent a lot of time with Tony, and he tells me stories that I'm always blown away by. So we have a poet, Harry Fagel, artist, Nancy Good, artist and journalist, Brent Holmes, and last but not least, musician and animated alien, Ginger Bruner. These were folks that Tony had wished they would be here and thought that it would be cool if they did show up. And when I reached out to them, among others, everybody wanted to be here to be a part of Tony's life. So how I want to start this all off is I want everybody to go down the line and talk about how you met Tony and how that has affected your life. So, Ginger?
Well, I first met Tony when I'm in a band called Tibialis. And a lot of you have seen us. And we used to play a lot for Mr. Bondi's Sound House, which was super fun. This guy would get up in a tuxedo in like 1994 and just introduce bands. Oh, come on the stage now. Tibialis, etc. Trust me, we can all do this. Who cannot do a Tony Bondi? I ask you. Anyway, so that's how I met Tony. And then I ended up doing art stuff. Richard Hooker put us together in his fabulous gallery over in Art Square, and we did a fabulous show together that Tony named the best name ever, Suspicious Evidence. And boy, oh boy, was it suspicious. But anyway, we've done some stuff together artistically, and just, we're denizens of downtown and Huntridge, and
It's one half a block.
I know, it's a half a block apart, so how could we miss each other? But Tony and I just, I don't know, we bonded. In his case, he bondied. But, you know. But if you've hung out in Las Vegas at all, downtown at all, you've hung out with that guy. Okay? And he has affected you. And you don't necessarily know how or why. but he does. And so that's how I can just say, he makes you think differently, especially about Las Vegas and growing up here. And he's just enough older than me that he's got to see some very cool stuff that I didn't get to see. And I'm jealous as hell. About parts of it anyway. Nobody's ever jealous of anything, or everything, you know. But there you go. I'm gonna keep going so we're not here all night. Yay, Tony. That's all I got.
I don't know what I can honestly say about meeting Tony, because I can't remember exactly, but I know it was at Cafe Roma back in probably 1996 or so. Maybe earlier than that even. I'm not sure the year. It was 94 actually.
Yeah, it's right there. It's right there.
Somewhere in that time when kind of Maryland Parkway was becoming this kind of art mecca for a while. It was kind of neat. For a minute. Yeah, for a minute. But I bought one of Tony's paintings. I remember back then it was a collage, and it looked like a spiral staircase going down, and it's somewhere in my collection, or I gave it to somebody as a gift. I don't know where the fuck it is right now. But that was like my first kind of, he needed some money. He goes, hey man, will you buy one of my paintings? I'm like, sure. I had some money, I gave him money, and he was happy as hell, and I was happy. And it hung on my wall in my house for years and years and years until we moved to a smaller place, and I wasn't able to display all my art. But a more interesting facet of our early time together was that I was working for the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department, and I somehow ended up at Burning Man in 1998.
Why is that?
There was that. Looking back, it was probably not the smartest thing for me to be doing at the time.
Maybe the smartest, actually.
But I'm glad I did it. And what made it really special was that these folks, all the kind of Tony's people and Doug Jablin I saw in here tonight, and a lot of the art folks in Vegas at the time, did this Hidden Vegas thing out there, and they were kind enough to let 2 frickin' cops come and hang out with them. We brought this RV, and they kind of let us be there. I know we didn't know everything that was going on. They kind of, they were like, hey, about a few things, but whatever.
You were being watched.
Yeah, it was really amazing, the acceptance and the love that we got from the group, and it gave me kind of an insight. Plus, I didn't know he was a nudist, and I learned that. And it was a learning experience. So I rode a bike naked there, and I went through the human washing machine naked, and it was amazing. And I would highly recommend it if you have the opportunity. But Tony, overall, I can just say, is been an incredible human being in my life. Like, every time I see you, it's special, and I learn something good. And I just want to say thank you for always being a light, man, no matter what. You're always a light. Your book is beautiful. We'll get into it, but I'm just happy to be here, and thank you.
All right. Tony, we're going to skip how you met Tony. Brent,
I really couldn't say where I first met Anthony Bondi. One, I have many years of alcoholic, drug-addled living. Yeah. I can expose those things now, but I can't. Tony's like a song that drifts into a room and makes it better to be in. I really don't mean to flatter. When I was young, I'm younger than the rest of you guys. I'm the baby at this table for the most part, and I got here a little later than most of you started living here as well. And I was coming from, a kind of pseudo-intellectual East Coast lifestyle, and I fell in with a bunch of weird junkies called Laser Vita, and I'm sure that's where I first ran into Tony, was with those guys. But like, Tony always would bring up something compelling. And as I grew as a person, as I grew as somebody that really did want to learn, and I grew my curiosity and my love for the world and the arts, every time I ran into this guy, like this weird guy at a party or an event or a show, he had some gem to hand me and like slowly I was like, I gotta be friends with that guy. Like, he's not just, and like a constant source of inspiration. For in a city that's not always that inspiring for artists, right? This guy's been towing the line longer than anybody I know and doing it splendidly. And this book is fucking ridiculous. And I mean that, like, the prose is ridiculous.
trouble and usually don't get into a lot of trouble, so I can't really say all the mischief that I've imagined having with Tony, but I cannot imagine a time when I've not known Tony. That's how much of a presence Tony has been in my life. Sometimes it's been related to art, sometimes it's been related to just very deep philosophical conversations. Sometimes it's just been, listening to him go off, in rapid succession on whatever topic he's about ready to just pound, and rightfully so. I've never known him to attack something without cause. But he does it in a way that you just can't look away. You don't ever want to look away. And I do remember some sensory things of the Iron Curtain, going through that the first time and feeling like, oh my gosh, I have to go back and forth through this because it's like a Bondi hug. It's like, oh God. If you don't know what it is, it's a ball chain curtain that is. Yes. Oh yeah. We're not going to dox him here. He can personally invite you so you can have that Bondi hug. But his art has been so impactful to me, on top of his mind and humor and sensitivity, that I was compelled to give him a show in my old gallery and do it in a way that was unexpected, that I was able to delight him, because it's like I've seen him in places where he's been taken for granted as far as how massive the talent that he is. And I wanted the rest of the world to see what I saw and experience what I've experienced and felt, and also play with his art, which is what it is all about. I mean, and we did. We had 90-year-old women crawling through the playground, tubes with the ball chain stuff too, and just hilarity. And then I'm sitting here looking, it's like, I had the good fortune of being one of the early readers of stuff. But I wasn't really paying attention to the cover art, but I'm just cracking up here. So, Tony's a nudist, but look where the eye is. Is that implying something?
That was the only thing in the contract as publishers, that we would not let Tony change. My wife did say we could move the O over there, Tony, if that would make you happier, and he said no, we'll leave the I.
No, but I'm just, I don't know what he looks like. It's a capital I. I mean, you guys do the measurement, It's to scale.
If it wasn't for Nancy, Tony probably would have never come into our bookshop. Tony was, if you will, a sprite who would show up when nobody else was in the bookstore, would hang out and tell stories until somebody would come in, and then Tony would, boom, he would be out the door before you even knew it. But as far as who supported us at our bookstore, Tony came in and he donated some of the most expensive books we sold. Tony came in and he enlightened us on some fantastic writers and who we should be bringing into the bookstore. And then Tony loved our collection, and Tony said, hey, would you and your wife like to come to my house and see my book collection? And we, of course, were like, fucking hey, oh my gosh, this is incredible. We went to Tony's house. Not only did Tony go through all of the books that he had in his collection, it was amazing. As a book whore myself, I'm a big fan of amazing books. But Tony also brought us into his rooms and pulled out drawers that had all the past history of art that he had been a part of or that he had collected. And then he started telling us about the collection that he had that is now saved here in Las Vegas, because you've been the biggest archiver that Las Vegas has ever seen with history. And yet, even with all of that, Tony would still show up at the bookstore every Friday before anybody showed up, and he would hang out and talk about stuff. He would go through, maybe buy a book or two, but also tell us history of certain things that we had no idea of. It was one of the best experiences as a bookstore owner to have somebody that comes in that knows your lore, local lore, historical history, and underground history, as well as art. And I'll finish with this. I asked Tony, he's the collage king. Collage really started with Tony, and he'll probably say that's not true, but I'm gonna fucking sell it right now. I asked Tony to come in, and we had a bunch of books, Time Life, and lots of photos and stuff that we wanted to add to a collage night. I thought, Tony, come on in, let's do a collage night. You could lead this collage night and it'll be really great. You're the legend of collage. And Tony said, oh, no. 3 things you need to know. Foreground, background, middle ground, that's it. And, you learn that in kindergarten. So, I'm not going to lead anything. So I said, awesome. Okay, that's fine. Well, I'm gonna have to rip through some books. Do you want to come hang out? He said, I will kill books all day long. And so we would smoke a little. Tony sat at that end. I sat at this end, and we smoked a little weed, had a couple of beers, and we killed books left and right. In fact, I have pictures with a pile next to Tony. He was in the slaughter. Tony, he wasn't even looking, like, oh, this is great. Or ripped it up and threw it on the ground. But occasionally Tony would find some photo or an art piece that he would tell me something that I had no idea about. This photographer used to be an illustrator back in the day. This artist was somebody who went on to work for Mad Magazine. Shit you had no idea about. I literally stopped tearing up books, started drinking more beer and smoking more weed just to listen to Tony tell me these amazing stories of the history that he had known. And I'd never heard that from anybody else. These are the things that help us at Avant fall in love with Tony. He's not only a legend in Vegas, and he's never looked for fame, but if anybody deserves it, this is the man that does, and I'm so happy to take part of this. So, with that said, I want to run through everybody here to go over. I know everybody has a story with Tony. In fact, for those who don't know, back in the day, there used to be contests who could do the best Tony Bondi voice. I'm pretty good at that myself, but outside of that, thank you, I'm working on it. Outside of that, I know that there's special times that everybody has with Tony, and before we start into the book, I just want to see what historical moments people might have. Ginger.
Well, one thing that Tony and I didn't do together, but I find interesting, is his family was in the blueprint business, and my grandparents were. So, I know, you knew that. Well, we talked about it so long ago, you probably forgot. That's the thing, is we've known each other so long, we've forgotten more things than we remember, and that's what happens with a Tony Bondi. I think we're probably due to do another show together, though, huh? All right, anyway. So, my favorite thing is to get together with Tony and talk weird art, and even better to do art, or put our art together to make it work together. And so we just need to do more of that. Frankly, you all need to do more of that. It's good and good for you. That's all I'm saying. Gosh, I don't know. I'm trying to think of, here's the thing. You have all the stories and they never come out when you want.
Ginger, were you ever at the nudist apartment complex?
I was never at the nudist apartment complex. I really want to hear more about that. I haven't gotten to that part of the book yet.
That's where I went home after a lonely night at a Tippy Elvis show.
That's where we went over to a lonely night after to the other naked people. As one does. Now, I just remember he He's always a stalwart. Were you at the Tiger Show?
I was about to say, and I don't know how, but somehow or other there has to be a segue to the Tiger Show. I was at the Tiger Show.
Yeah, you were at the Tiger Show. So here's the thing, we can tell a story together because he needed to be. So Tippy Oldest has a friend. His name's Josh. We called him Tiger Boy because he had a tiger, and before this he had a lion and a tiger, and he would do photos with them, and they were trained. But he brought the tiger into Tom and Jerry's bar on South Maryland Parkway in the intermission of the Tippy Elvis show, and set the tiger up on his box, and then we took pictures with the tiger. Now, I had been in the tiger's cage with the tiger, chained or anything, having some fun, because this is Las Vegas. You can do that in Las Vegas. You can go, hey, you want to come photograph my tiger? Sure. Anyway, so he's at the Tiger Show. Brent, you would have loved this.
You missed out on so much.
You missed out on a lot.
I know.
Ask us how we met.
David.
Anyway, so Tony the Tiger. We'll come Tony the Tiger
I can't
Show.
tell the glory of the story is that we were casually told over and over again, it's just a great big tiger. Don't let it get you down. We're going to do the gig, and that's a great big tiger, and you're not that far away, but don't let it get you down. And then the tiger started to move. And we probably should pick it up from there. I mean,
Well, the tiger was chained. It wasn't going anywhere.
it was a tiger, and we were in a bar, and we were like,
Well, so I went
Are you
first.
worried about a loose tiger in your bar?
I went
Get out
first.
of there and have another drink and fix it.
This is awesome. Okay. I gotta find more buttons to push. This is great. All right. So I take a picture with the tiger, and then I berate the guys in Tippy Oldest to come take a picture with the tiger, and then we had anybody wanted to take a picture with the tiger. That was fun. That's back when Polaroids meant something. You know what I mean?
Well, this was when entertainment understood it had to be entertainment. For all.
You never quite knew what was going to happen at Tippy Elvis show, and Tony was a major reason for a lot of that, I think. Am I wrong, Brian? Mr. Bondi's sound house, man.
Just for the record, the tiger drugged Josh's ass all the way across the front of the bar with his Peggy King. Remember Peggy, our
Yes.
little Whitney brother Tom? Yes. So
That's what
he
tigers
wanted
do.
to go say hi and do her. But Josh was like, and off it goes. So
That's what I remember. The tiger
Tiger?
started to
He
move.
only weighed 700 pounds. He might have weighed 125 soaking wet. Anyway,
Yes.
always have Tony at the Tiger Show. All I'm saying.
Harry, before you get in, Harry, when I talked to Tony about Harry, Tony's like, oh, he was at poetry events, and he was a cop back then. He was hardcore and intense. And Harry's no longer a cop, but he's still hard fucking core and intense. So Harry, tell us your version of a Tony World.
Well, I don't know. Harry, fucking, I'm really pissed off about this drug motherfucker. I don't know. I was naked with the guy. I think that's pretty fucking extreme. Fuck your tiger. Naked. Nude. Yeah. Everybody's wondering now about that eye. Huh? You're wondering about my eye now. You wonder about my eye. Well, I'll tell you, it's pretty intense, that big eye.
Maybe it's time to say that there's a logic in putting someone who speaks badly as the MC of a show. What logic could there be? But Doug Jadman had a particular type of logic. A whole series of shows that had just a great MC named Greg Crosby. Well-spoken, well-presented, everything you want in an MC, who then bumped himself off and it wasn't around. How was Doug going to replace the great MC with the most incompetent MC there ever could be? Because that's the kind of games we put together. That's how I got on the stage.
to tell all the secrets here afterwards. But Brent, next.
So this story is much less lascivious, but it is actually my favorite Tony Bondi story because, so do you guys know who the Zabludoviches are at all? They're major. Yeah, do you guys know who the Zabludoviches are at all? They own the plaza, or they did, and they had a big art event, and I fell in friendly with their son Roy for a little while, and you know, he always would be like, Brent, you know, try to talk to me, and it was fine and whatever, because we were doing the CAC back then. And one day I'm outside of Vesta, and Tony's, I come around the corner, Tony's outside, and Roy Zabludovic, who's like, you know, from a multi-millionaire family of arms dealers, let's be honest here. Like he comes around the other corner and he goes, Brent, and Tony is relaying to me a story, and he says, Brent, what are you up to? And I'm like, hey, hold on, man. Like, hold on, super third generation billionaire kid. You gotta hear whatever this guy has to say. And he goes on to explain to us, he says, I'm not gonna do it, Tony Bondi, it's just embarrassing to try. You shouldn't do it? Here's like, well, you know, the thing about World War I was that it was so dreadful because most of the young men at that time were reading these serials coming out of Africa about how easy and simple and delightful warfare was in the primitive bush, and they all wanted to, you know, go off to war, and then they get to World War I, and they get their legs blown off, and it's just a complete nightmare. And Roy Zabludovic just gives me the biggest blank stare in the history of the fucking world, and I think that's the last time that guy ever fucking talked to me, and it was worth it, because I get to tell that goddamn story.
If I can stop laughing. So, Tony and I, you know, again, we've been friends, but we haven't had a lot of shenanigans together, other than just a lot of massive respect. And well, it can be. Now I have a lot more free time since I don't have the gallery responsibilities. But when, again, back to when I wanted to do this show, because I've seen Tony's art in the, you know, the Las Vegas or Sahara West Library, and it was great in there, but it was sterile. You couldn't really engage with it. And when we were installing his show, and I will do my best, Tony Bondi, I've always, because after visiting his home and looking at the art and deciding what was going to come into the gallery space, I kept seeing this placement and this installation of one of his works, which was two pieces that usually were just sandwiched on top of each other. And I was seeing it in a whole different way, where it was suspended from the ceiling and angled down, and then this and that. And so I was telling Tony, it's like, sit here and let me know what you think. And it's such a vivid memory in my mind of watching him sit, you know, and Tony's pretty intense when he's watching something. It's like, you know, he's the squinty eyes, the intense, you know, he's paying attention. He pays attention to everything. So if you're out and about, you see he's on you. But he's sitting in this chair, and I watch his eyes change from get bigger and bigger and bigger, and his mouth starts to drop, and he's like, well, I would have never installed it like that. I would never have imagined it that way, but you know, that's the right way. And as an artist, as a gallerist, as a curator, as a friend, I could have not ever received a better compliment, because I was doing everything in my power to honor this man and his just massive, epic talent, and that seems to be one of my goals in life. So that's why I'm here, because I'm going to keep honoring this man. I was joking earlier, I was going to lay down on the floor at his feet throughout the whole panel, because that's the amount of respect that we have.
Yeah, and this is why I think we're all here Tony, is because you've been helping the art scene in Las Vegas for so long before most of us have been here. In fact, most people don't know this, and Tony will never probably talk about it, but I will. The Black Mountain Institute. Tony was part of bringing that here and making sure it happened and fundraising for it and being somebody who made sure Las Vegas wanted it. And then, guess what? Black Mountain Institute doesn't want to deal with is local artists. And so that tells you the irony. But Tony's been patient. He's been just supporting locals, not wanting the focus on himself. And that's something that I think is amazing in any artist, but especially somebody who's achieved so much and has done so much for the community. And I can't say that enough. Tony's done so much for the art community, whether it's poetry or art or photography or collage. Tony supports, he's there, and he's given his heart and soul to it all. And I think that's what this book represents, is what Tony's been focused on without looking for the focus on himself. And that's why we were so honored to be able to do this. With that said, Tony, why don't you read a couple of chapters that you really like? This is your time now.
Oh, I'm going to
Sit next to one of my heroes right now.
Around and leave. There's nothing else I can add to the conversation as it stands. So, but thank you to one and all for creating a mythology for which I'll never have to live down.
Come on, Tony, read us some shit.
Sure, let's.
Come on.
It's all right. Here's a premise. Basic people who developed have more to the development of the town, more to had more to do with the development of the character of the town, with the people who got here in the 1950s, when it was a very, very small town, and it grew from there. Of course.
Ginger!
So it's the 1950s, and these people are all the sort of mythology of Vegas, Rat Pack, and all that kind of good stuff. That's happening at that time. And at the same time, the Nevada test site, they're blowing off about maybe 1,000 atom bombs. And it's very strange to me that those people lived through this, which is to say that they would see 5, 10, 15 bombs in a year after year after year. And when it was all done, they never really had anything to say about it. And I thought to myself, that's not like human behavior. Human behavior doesn't witness impending Armageddon 60 miles away, 3 times a month, 5 times a month, for a decade, and not be affected by it. So I thought, well, perhaps that's a source of a particular character we have in Las Vegas. And it's the fact that these people all kind of developed a twitch because they watched too many atom bombs. The thing about watching atom bombs is they weren't averaged out. You might see 10 of them in 30 days. Boom, 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 30 of them. That's a lot of atom bombs. Those people went and had kids. The kids got the same twitch the adults had. They didn't know where it came from. And now this is 5 generations later, and everybody's got a kind of a twitch to it. And they don't know where it came from. And I'm trying to suggest it actually has a very specific source. You should blame your parents, and their grandparents, and their parents. So there's the basis for this story in which we go from the 40s to 2000 something. And there's a lot of twitching, a lot of like inexplicable behavior. People who have an attraction to radiation that isn't supported by science. Good common sense says you should avoid radiation in most cases, except for electromagnetic radiation, which is everywhere at all times and is never to be avoided. So we. It's just basically a town of maybe 25,000, exploded a lot, and let's just go to 1960 for a minute, because if we don't, nobody else will. The chapter 1, Tony and the pitched roof. The pitched roof. We were taught in kindergarten to draw a house. We were told to draw a square and then a triangle on top of it. But most houses around here were flat-topped. What we were told was a house did not look like the houses where any of us lived. I asked Dad about the funny triangle. He explained snow to me and how pitched roofs help accumulated snow to fall off. When I looked at pitched roof houses after that, I tried to imagine how thick a pile of snow the pitch of the house was designed to dislodge. I had never seen snow. My first sense that our desert might be unusual geography came from reading Tom Sawyer. On hot days, kids in Missouri went swimming in a creek. There were no creeks here, no Mississippi River. The scrub brush desert looked afflicted with famine. There was only enough rain for the shrubs in a 5-year cycle. It was a viable ecosystem, but it left us with many more dry years in our experience than wet years. Our norm was a dormant desert. During dry years, the shrubbery looked dead, too dry to survive. Nothing left of the plant but a gray, spindly exoskeleton. If this was survival, it was at a desperate cost. When we saw a bloom on a shrub, the temptation was to look at it with polite cynicism. It would not last long. It was a tourist. On windy days, tumbleweeds blew down streets and across vacant lots. These were gray balls of brambles, maybe 10 feet in diameter. They looked like congealed dryness, as if heat had begun to metastasize like a fungus. They looked like they were wiser than us and running away from something that would happen after they were gone. Small tumbleweeds looked funny, bowled by the wind down an empty street. It was a baby scooting for a minute out of the grown-up's control. The desert was moving, something it did not do from month to month. It took a long season of dry weather to shrivel a tumbleweed until its stalk broke and it turned hobo. But that is how tumbleweeds spread their seeds, by bopping down the road away from home with no planned direction. There they go, changing their names again. Other brambles stayed anchored and were much larger cousins to tumbleweeds. Their growth was a symbiotic process. As the bush grew, its roots and above-ground thicket impeded the flow of sand around it. The drift of sand around the stem began to bury it. The bramble grew above the drift until both the sand dune and bush matured together. The health of the bramble was based on its function as an anchor, as a drag on free movement around. Shall I keep going here? I can pause.
Oh, that was it. So we do have, everybody's got a QR code in their seat to get the first chapter of Tony reading his audiobook, which I recommend because if you listen to the audiobook, full storm, you will now be able to understand Tony in person much better. You will enunciate what Tony does. What's our time? Where are we at? 7:30. Excellent.
Can I say something really quick?
Please.
So for everybody that does know Tony, that's been reading this book, we cannot help but read it and hear his voice. I mean, it's endless, and I'm chuckling because it's like I would never have been able to imagine this voice in my lifetime. And
Now you can't get it out?
I cannot, and I love it, and that I think it adds to it because there's there's this humor, but it's the phrasing and the anticipation. It's like, you want to hear what's coming next, and you don't know when it's coming next, and I can read it, but I still don't know when it's coming next because I'm hearing it in his voice. So.
is it bounces just like Tony. The words bounce. I didn't know you were a poet too. I knew you were a lot of things, man. But your rhythm in this book is just unbelievable. The rhythm of it, and it is like sitting with you. It's something special, man.
And for the record, as the publisher, the audiobook was recorded last year, but Tony, I made some changes last minute. Do you mind if I change the last few chapters? Well, maybe I changed a few other things. Well, we had to re-record. And so that's why you're only getting the first chapter, because we're still recording with Tony. That just means it's going to be even more epic from the beginning. So, Tony, continue, please. Let's hear more. Yes, we got a little time. Let's do it.
Before we go forward, I'll mention that this is profusely illustrated, and that was no intent of mine as I put the book together. But in the course of preparing publication, I mentioned to Sugar and Shwa, oh, by the way, there are all these family photos, not that they would be of any interest to anybody that I can think of. And it was only on that basis that the conversation occurred that led to all kinds of just really disturbing pictures in this book. So that's something to be held in mind.
Well, and our focus with Tony, after reading Tony's first draft, was Tony had in the beginning talked a lot about his family, however, wasn't super connected with a lot of that. But yet the ending story was about the art industry and how Vegas had been changing and this nudist apartment complex. So I sent the first draft back to Tony and I said, we need to change some things. You need to be focused on these aspects of what is really amazing of the story. And so Tony did, and this is what you're getting right now.
Maybe I'll just do a jump for the sake of jumping because,
Yeah.
you know, so forward a little bit, but we're still talking about a long while back, and we are going to arrive at Las Vegas showbiz, about first grade or so. But I'll jump ahead. I'll jump back. Here we go. With atom bombs, it was plausible that nuclear warfare could be staged nearby while people 50 miles away would be safe. Vegas might want to take out Bacon or Lopendale. It might come to that. But regular people might fall into catatonia if atomic warfare was staged close enough that they could see it. A witness said it was so bright you could see the bones in their hand. I did not have skin that changed my idea of what bright is. I never want to see it again. Vegas was the psychiatric model for the USA, for the applause its residents showed when the white light blew through town. Most people were fine with it if the shock waves did not break their windows. On this basis, the clinicians decided that the rest of the country would also adjust and carry on if nuclear warfare was to occur on the local horizon. It was discounted that people who lived in Vegas might have more practice than average people in coping with apocalyptic visions. All right. I have no memory of seeing or feeling a blast. It can only mean that I learned early to sleep through them. It was Mom and Dad arguing again. Even as a baby, I had probably been up late. Bruce never remembered one either. Bruce and I were friends from first grade. We looked like twins. We got a dependable laugh by admitting that we were not even brothers. Bruce was the son of Jack and Etta Cortez, who ran the fabulous Las Vegas magazine. It was published weekly and was stacked for free distribution at the front desk of every casino in town. It listed who was playing where and when, and what was on TV. Everyone needed a copy of it. Between the ads were space fillers, columns that no one was expected to read. Criswell was the ethereal name of its astrologer. He became the most famed of the magazine's writers when he was featured in what was often nominated as the worst movie ever made. Squibs are printed when a press agent pays a gossip columnist to mention his client. Rouvan, the new singer in the Casino de Paris, was at a party last night with his charming wife. Bruce and I were about 10 when we started getting squibs as freebies. We were undeserving of squibs. It was a private joke. Sometimes the columnists needed to fill space. Grade school was a tender time to be introduced to humor and misdirection in print media. It was a sordid world, recalled with stirring music in the movie The Sweet Smell of Success. I don't know. Jump around.
Tony, I think that is fantastic. Let's get people up here to sign their book. This is not just an honor to be working with Tony Bondi, but this whole panel is some of the most talented and amazing people that Las Vegas has offered. And I hope that you all continue to be mentors to the artists in this town, as you have been. It's an honor to be with you all. And Tony, you fucker. Thanks for being our friend. And we're so happy, we're all so happy to be a part of it. Now, my wife, who runs the show, just said that we have time to take a couple of questions. So, for anybody out here who may know Tony or have some stories that they want to tell, I know you do. Yeah, please.
Tony, when did you first realize you were an artist?
That's a tough one. Why was that? Because I went to kindergarten at 4 and then 5, and then they, just to kill time before first grade. And they told me I was a great artist. And I said, I don't know, art smart. I had no idea what they were talking about, of course. And then I did the kid thing where I said, I'm going to show you, I'll make bad art. And they gave me the same compliment they did the day before. So then I recognized art criticism for what it's worth, at a very, very early age. It was really always going to be up to me to make the decision, So I was always making art at the earliest age, and I got really serious at about 7. So here we are.
Well, and am I not correct by saying that you were wanting to be a filmmaker too? You love the film world?
I love the film world from a distance, because growing up in a small town, we didn't have any art movies, but we had Time Magazine, we had all the national publications, which would spend every week, would come out and tell you that in New York City, an incredibly great art event happened, probably relating to movies, or it was an art show. Whatever it was the greatest thing in the world, and it was a long 3,000 miles away from here. So I just memorized all this stuff as if I were a New Yorker, so I could carry out an every night conversation about French New Wave movies, was what I would do soon, right? Anyway,
And you know more about the most obscure underground films than anybody else. So is that not a passion, or is that just a hobby?
Yeah, no, what is it? Grow up, you got to get out of town, you got to go to the big city. I went to LA from here, which is not leaving Vegas, of course. It's getting from the suburb to the capital, so I fully understood that, but nevertheless, know your neighborhood, So big city meant let's go exploring for strange and wonderful art, and I discovered an art form that happened to be at its peak at that particular time. Underground movies, of which I'm sure few of us have had any experience, but there was a culture that contained a type of film that never played outside big cities, and I happened to fall into it and found the kind of the baseline of aesthetic that I've used ever since. I make collages after watching a lot of filmmakers who would make cutouts into animated movies. It might take them 5 years to make a movie. I watched a lot of brilliant artists who clearly were going to starve to death. There was not a chance anybody was ever going to get rich. And so this would have to be something you really enjoy doing. So these are the kind of mentors that an artist needs. Alternate to, you don't need to move to New York and become a junkie, and then you'll find a particular personal vision that's unique to you and every other starving artist who's gone to New York City in the last 75 years. But your goals will be majorly different. that was a tough choice to make, you know, that despite my devotion to Time magazine, you know, I mean, I was selling my, you know, I was refusing, anyway, no matter. Every young artist ought to go find themselves some school of art that nobody else is paying attention to. How's that, you know, if you're lucky. So,
Anybody? Who else? Any questions for Mr. I knew Ginger had one. That's what I was.
What's next?
well, there's these pieces that have been lying around in my backyard that haven't been resolved yet. And suddenly there was a span of time, and I recollected the good offers and advice given to me by Nancy and applied her principles to 4 different pieces. And do I feel good now? It's really great to be able to work with other artists, isn't it?
No. In fact, I wanted Tony to include some of the Burning Man stuff in this book, and Tony said, "Whoa, that's another book that'll come down, that'll happen down the road." So, yeah, we'll hope those stories come out too, because that's another area that you're a legend in. Is the beginning of Burning Man, and you've done so much for that culture, artistically, sculpture-wise.
With Doug and Martha, Doug Javelin and Martha in the back of the room there.
Well, yeah.
Other people scattered around here. There was a trickle of...
Doug, can I bring you on up right now, real quick, before we close out? Come on, Doug. Come on, I need you up here. I told Doug's going to bring you up. Doug has been a part of the art community for so many years that I'm just going to hand the mic over to you, because you can tell us more than we do.
Wow. One of the best ones that hasn't been talked about is at one point Tony was a millionaire. For like 5 minutes. But he was able to spend a lot of money on art during that period of time because he had all the money to spend. So a lot of the fabulous art that he's famous for came about during that period of time when he was a millionaire.
We took care of that problem with great efficiency.
You know, the stock market goes up and it goes down. The best was, a few months before that, I asked Tony, when are you going to get out? And he said, maybe no.
This from a person who grew up here, around gamblers. You know, when you got the fever, it just feels so good. They can't tell you to stop. They don't know nothing. They ain't feeling like this ever before. They have never won like this before, and it's not going to stop. You just got to be bold. Oh, well.
But when I first met Tony and started going over to his apartment in his apartment complex, I remember his art being pinned to the wall. And, you know, a lot of the famous art that you all remember was just pieces of paper that were pinned to the wall. Wow, that is so cool. And so when we started doing events, Tony was the person who did our backgrounds for a lot of the events. And it was really amazing what he could come up with, especially when he started getting the billboards and tacking them to the wall. Well, that's another story where Tony would just staple things to the wall and we'd just tear it out after the event was over. And a lot of the events we did, that's the way the art was stapled to the wall, but it was always very creative. I mean, we all came in with different ideas every week, and Tony was a big part of the artistic installations during the events in the early 90s.
3 hours up, 3 hours down, 2 hours down, 1 hour down, 3 hours set up and 1 hour tear down. Yeah. Come back next week.
And then going to Burning Man. Let's see, I think Tony's first Burning Man was in 1995. And we had a tent. We didn't have an installation. Did we? No, you did something with the tent.
Yeah, it was a big balloon that blew up. It was no good. It was just a Hula Hoop Training Center.
Okay, there we go.
Absolutely.
And we got center cap that year.
Tony,
Which was
is that
amazing.
just a gimmick to get half-naked people to like gyrate?
There was that. There was that.
And it's like, you know.
You've got to meet your public halfway at least.
So, yeah, that was a really interesting experience, and it kept on getting more interesting every year that we went in relation to the camps and how elaborate they became. I'm not going to keep going. I could.
I will end this on, so Tony, with our contract, he wanted to make sure certain things were aligned because he'd been taken advantage of from I don't know if it's a gaming company or what it was. Tony had created a interactive Birdie Man art piece. Complete me if I'm wrong.
Well, let's see. So let's put a picture on a wall. Let's do interactive group events such as Doug was producing, which meant let's break the fourth wall, do it, get engaged with the audience, pull the audience up. Doug was a great promoter of stars. If you have no talent, that's all right. You're a star then, and get on the stage anyway. You could get on our stage for just about any attention you might have. It didn't matter. So that Burning Man was basically just jump ahead for a minute. It was interactive. Everybody wanted to touch it, climb it, engage with it. I was making pictures. Don't make pictures. This is the different place. Do not do up here what you do at home. That was the opportunity that was there. So that led to tactile immersion environments, which had no interest in your eye. If you like pictures.
Well, one of the first to do that.
And well, there's the story. So okay, that was pretty fun. People were having fun with it, and on it went. And then there was a Gateway Festival here in '99, which was like the prototype of First Friday. It was behind the Arts Factory. It was a one-night thing. Maybe it was going to be an annual event. That was so. Here is this interactive thing that I had made, and here's kids playing with it, and then the stars opened up, and all the angels came down and flitted and sang in my ear, saying, "You used to call that an art piece. Why don't you call it a toy? And it's for the kids." So I went out and said, is this in fact an original idea? How do you certify an original idea? Apply for a patent, and they'll tell you. And so I got a patent, which I thought was a really great conceptual art project. Probably I wouldn't have been the first one to do it. But, I've been certified as an original person by the U.S. Patent Office, and who cares what the idea is? It makes me certifiable. It's just always a great consideration as well. So that led to a lot of years of involvement with patents and royalties and in different producers and thieves and gambling addicts
And in the end, what happened to your art piece?
Well, the patent of the art piece was the case in which my cynicism was overwhelmed by facts. So I was robbed, cheated, stolen from for a decade, and that was the end of that. And I was about to be kicked onto the floor until other people within this company that had done this instead raised us up and said, we're going to extend our payments to you for 5 years past the expiration of the patent just to make up for the crappy behavior. I mean, how could I not feel tender-hearted toward American manufacturers when that happened? And so what a great experience.
Yeah, nonetheless, Tony has created things for your kids, for the adults, and still is not getting enough credit. So please, let's give a big hand to Tony Bondi. Thank you, Tony. Yeah. All right, so we gotta slowly close this all down, but we have books for Tony to sign. If he's still up for signing, I don't know. He's pretty tired right now. I can see it in his eyes, but maybe he will still sign some books. I want to thank this also legendary panel right now. Some of the most amazing artists and badass in Las Vegas. If you don't know them, please look them up because they're doing phenomenal stuff, and it's an honor to have you all, and I'm so thankful. Ginger, Harry, Brent,
Nancy.
Thank you all. Let's give a big hand to those two.
Let's hear it for Shwa and Sugar with all that hot.
Well done, Shwa. And sugar, don't forget sugar.